Welcome everyone to the first event of this school year's ABG Pre-Apprenticeship Speaker Series. My name is Sarah. I'm BRIC's Director of Communications and also your moderator for today's session. And this speaker series is from the BRIC Foundation, and it aims to provide early career awareness and education about all the different and exciting careers that exist across animation, visual effects, and gaming. We're kicking off the series today with an overview of the animation industry with our guest, David Sharples here, who is an independent animation producer and creative executive. After the presentation, we'll have an audience Q&A for the last 15 minutes of the session. So be sure to use that Q&A button if you have any burning questions along the way. So David, I'll let you take it from here. Please go on and tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. I'm just going to share screen just so that we can get that up before I talk. And let's see here. Okay. Okay, so hi everybody. Like Sarah said, I'm David Sharples. I'm an independent animation producer and creative executive up here in Toronto, Canada. And I have been really fortunate to have had a career in animation that has gone now over 20 years, which is just crazy to me. I can't believe time is flying, but it's been 20 years. And in that time, I've done a bunch of different roles that have led to where I am in my career right now. So today, I'm really happy to be here today to share my story, talk a little bit about the road that led to where I am today, talking to you all. And then, on top of that, I'd like to give everybody just like a general overview of the animation pipeline process of getting a show from a pitch to TV or to a screen. And so I'm going to walk through each stage of the pipeline. And some of you may have seen presentations like this before on the animation industry. But the one thing that I've found from like presentations like this when they're talking about pipeline is there isn't really a lot of talk about the different roles that you can do within each stage of an animation pipeline. And so I want to talk about all the different career paths that you can take in animation, because there's this misconception that you have to be this mind-blowing artist to work in cartoons and work in animation, and that's not the case. It's an industry full of people with different strengths, and bringing all of those strengths together to tell really incredible stories. So yeah, let's get started and talk a little bit about me. This slide is just a little sample of stuff that I've worked on lately, mostly like over the last, I would say, 8 years. Overall in my career, I've probably worked on upwards of 30 different series, in, again, doing different various roles in production. So yeah, this is just a little taste, but I'll get into it in a little more detail here as I talk about my animation career journey. And there's me. That was me when I'm probably, I probably shouldn't say how old I was, but anyways, it was sometime in the early 80s. And when I was a kid, I can actually track back my animation career all the way back to when I was a kid. I loved drawing, especially drawing comics. I was always creating new characters, creating stories, and I was telling them through my comics. I also love to play video games like every kid, and I also watched a lot of cartoons. I was always setting my VCR to record any shows that I couldn't watch if I couldn't get home from school fast enough, and I wore out those tapes. I wore them out. I watched a lot of cartoons. So that was like my me as a kid, my life as a kid. Now fast forward, and in college, I actually ended up taking computer graphics. At the time, computers and computer graphics was really a hot topic. It was really coming into play in a lot of various industries and stuff. And it really interested me, and I wanted to learn more about computers and computer graphics. And so I was a graduate in that. And I thought, coming out of college, I thought, oh, I'm probably going to end up, as a graphic designer or something like that. But then I got a phone call from a friend of mine who graduated the semester before. And he said, "Hey, would you like to come work with me at a company called Nelvana?" And I knew of Nelvana because, of course, I watched a lot of cartoons as a kid, and I knew that it was one of the biggest animation studios in Canada, in Toronto. And so I was like, yeah, like that. I was like, sure, okay. I didn't see it coming, but I went for it. So the role that I did, because this was a little bit back when animation was actually still drawn like on paper. I got a job in the ink and paint department, the digital ink and paint department. And basically what that was the hand-drawn frames of animation would come here from overseas, and they would get scanned into the computer, and then the digital ink and paint artist would paint fill frames and after frame after frame after frame of these animated series, and then those would get kicked out into layout and then put together to put together the show. So yeah, I probably painted about 5 billion frames of Franklin the Turtle. But I was in the animation industry and I thought this is so cool. I thought it was the greatest thing. Um, but then right as soon as I got started, in that, digital really started to take off and Flash started to become huge in animation. And also, of course, like 3D CG was really taking off. And so the digital ink and paint department ended up closing down, but a role opened up at Nelvana in their production design department for a design coordinator. And I thought, that's different. But it was a chance for me to stay in the business. And I knew I was going to get to work closely with artists. And I just thought, this is going to be really a cool new switch for me. And it changed my path. It changed my career path. I went into design. I was a design coordinator for a few years. Then I became from there a production coordinator. And after about 5 years doing that, I knew I wanted to be a producer. And to become a producer, I knew I was going to have to spread my wings. I was going to have to fly. I was going to have to go and work at other studios to try and get there. And so I ended up leaving Nelvana. I ended up working as a production manager at another studio. And then that leads me to where I ended up at Fresh TV here in Canada. And this was my first gig as a line producer. I was working on a show called 16 up here, and then from there I worked on a show that was on Cartoon Network called Total Drama Island, and I did a few seasons of that. So that was massive for me. But then from there, now that I was a line producer and I was working on stuff, this is the next step in my journey was really where my career really took off, and that was I ended up at a company called Spin Master, and it's a toy company, and they were making animated shows, and they were working on this preschool show about these little cute rescue dogs. And so I came in on the early days of what eventually became the worldwide phenomenon of PAW Patrol. And it was so cool because this was the first time I got to watch an animated show really take off and become like a worldwide, pop culture phenom. And to be a part of it as a producer was just incredible and so much fun. And from there, after a few seasons of producing the show, my career then also took another turn where I knew at this point I had been in production and I had been working in production, and I all the time I was always wanting to get into creative. Um, I got an opportunity to be a creative producer on Paw Patrol, where I was overseeing everything, giving feedback on scripts, giving feedback on animatics, design, animation, music, everything. I was like, I got to lead the creative on the show. And so that was huge and life-changing, career-changing for me. Because after that, I was still at Spin Master, but I moved up to the senior director of creative, and I got to oversee one of their new shows, Unicorn Academy, that is on right now on Netflix. And I also got to oversee the reboot of their flagship anime, Bakugan. So it was really that was really cool because that exposed me really to I was the hub for these productions within a massive toy company. So getting exposed to the consumer products, the marketing, everything that goes into on the toy side, getting to be involved in all of that while also making these really great, amazing shows was super cool. And right now, today, I'm actually now out on my own. I'm an independent producer and animation creative executive. And so I'm working with creators and best-selling authors, children's book authors, helping them develop series for television and then also helping them do the pitches to streamers and studios and everything like that. And so it's really fun, and I feel like I've almost come full circle, to when I was that little kid, drawing those comics and creating those worlds, and telling those stories. I've kind of come full circle to where I started, and it's been like I said, a 20 year ride, and it's been a lot of fun, and I hope it gets to continue for another 20, but we'll see. But anyways, that is my career journey. And so now, what I would like to talk about is hopefully a bunch of things that'll maybe kick off your journey. I know there's a lot of people that are on here that this are students. You're curious about the animation industry. What can I do? How can I get in? Maybe, like I said, maybe you're not the greatest at art, but you really love animation and you want to work in the industry. Well, hopefully something in this part of the presentation will really resonate with you, and you'll find something where you're like, hey, that's my strength, and you can run with it, and that'll be your career path. So I'm going to talk a little bit on how a show goes from a pitch to the screen. So first off, you have this idea and you want to pitch it. The first thing I want to say is that anyone can pitch. Anyone in the industry can pitch. All you need to do though is the tough part is you got to get your foot in the door. And once your foot is in the door and it's open for you to go in and pitch, that is when you now have to really grab it and take and run with it. Right. So don't ever feel like you can't pitch a show because you don't have this, or you don't have that, or you haven't been in the industry for whatever. I think as long as if you go out there and you do your research and you do your homework and you make your connections, which we'll get into at the end, networking, making connections to get your foot in the door, you can pitch a show. Who are you going to pitch to? Well, obviously you can pitch to studios, streamers, networks. They all have development departments and they're all looking for content, and you can pitch to those places. But then, like I was also working at Spin Master, which is a toy company, and toy companies have development departments too. So you can also pitch to them. Video games, when you see like shows like Arcane and stuff like that, that are really, really huge. They're all based on video games. So I think whoever is looking to make content, they're looking for pitches, and you can pitch to them. In terms of what that pitch is, it can be a full presentation deck like this that I'm putting together. Or it could even be, just a script or just a design or even an animation test if you're doing something at home on your own. It doesn't have to be, there's no real rule to what it has to be, except you want to be as concise and clear with what your show is all about in the pitch. And so you can see these images here from Adventure Time. If everybody remembers Adventure Time, which is a great show. These are some pages from Adventure Time's pitch Bible. And you can see just how simple it is. They came in with these designs, super fun. You can tell right away what the world is about, right? And this was their pitch Bible. And then also, they sang the theme song in the pitch, and that's that is what sold it. But yeah, there's no, like I said, there's no rule to really what it is, as long as it's staying true to the heart of the story you're trying to tell and the world you're creating. If that pitch gets picked up, it would then move into creative development. And in creative development, this is where a lot of the creative is expanded on and the pitch is built on, and you just keep working on the show and retooling certain things, character development. You're working on scripts, maybe even working on a little bit of like, what do you want the music to sound like? You're really fine tuning what the show is going to be. And sometimes that process is quick, and a lot of times that process is long. And you'll hear about shows that are in creative development for a really long time. Sometimes it's just the timing for a certain show isn't right, but eventually, hopefully, it comes around and the timing is right for whatever the show is that you're creating, and it's going to get out there to the world. In terms of some development roles, obviously there are creative executives, VPs of creative. There is a director of development that oversees all of the projects that are in development within that studio or streamer or network. Sometimes, there's some places maybe have five to 10 shows in development. Some might have 30 to 40 shows in development, right? Like a DreamWorks or something. So there's a lot of it depends on where you're pitching, what studios. There's also development artists that are usually freelance. You're developing the show, so you're also working on the visuals and what is it going to look like and everything. And so you're going to need artists that are going to put together those visuals for you, to imagine, to help you get what's in your head like into reality. And then, of course, you also need production people in development as well. So you have a development manager that's helping oversee all of that and shepherd everything from all the stages that it needs to go through in development. So that's just a little bit on that stage. If the show now is ready, let's just say the show has gone through development, it's ready to go. They've figured out the budget is set up, the schedule is all set up, you're ready to go. The first step, you're probably going to be assembling your creative and production leadership. And so here, I've done a couple of lists here of the key creative and key production roles that you'd probably be putting together. Key creative roles would be a showrunner, and this would be the person that oversees all the creative on the show from start to finish. You'd also have a series director who's responsible again for also creative, working together with the showrunner, but also just making, it's all about cutting and all the film language and everything and art direction and all of it. The director is going to oversee all of it. And then you also have an art director that is just strictly visuals, making sure that everything is cohesive, and then you've got the visual look that you're going for the project. On top of that, beside that, you've got the production people that, by the way, production people are the unsung heroes of the animation business. They really, people that are in production are every day making sure that every show stays on track, stays on budget, stays on schedule, and it is a difficult job at times because they're working with creatives like me who like to dream big, and maybe some ideas are gonna like blow up the budget in this area or blow up the budget in that area, but they're there to help rein everything in and make sure that everything gets done on time and on budget, on schedule, and that everybody's happy. And so they're very important. They're some roles are like, obviously you have a producer who's going to be looking over your budgets and schedules. They would be working directly with a production manager, overseeing everything on the floor, and then also the department coordinators. And so you have all of these people together are going to be your pillars for the show, and for the length of the production schedule. So now we're going to move into pre-production. You then have you have your pillars, you've got your show, it's all developed, you've got your pillars, and now you're going to put together all of your crews to do pre-production. First step of pre-production is writing. And so the showrunner would put together the writing team. Sometimes the showrunner is like the lead writer or the executive story editor, and they'll put together their team of writers. And then either in Summit or sometimes, I mean, it's not happening very much anymore, but there used to be like actual story rooms like at the studios where the writers would go every single day and write. The writing team will work out the episodic premises, and the story arcs will be developed for the show. And then from there, each writer will take their story that they were going to write, and they go off and they do the story beats. They're fleshed out. The script is written. And then it's ready. When that script is ready and approved, it's ready to go off into the next step of pre-production. Some of the roles in the writing department, obviously I spoke about showrunner, story editor, you have script writers, but then you also have script assistants. And I would say that if you're an aspiring writer and you want to try and getting that foot in the door, you want to get in and you want to see what it's like in a production. A great early start is as a script assistant. I've heard a lot of script assistants that I know have become writers and story editors. And it all starts there because you get exposed to the entire process and you meet a lot of great people and other writers. You just get right into that whole world. So yeah, that's a little bit about writing. So then the script is going to move on, and these next two stages can actually be flip-flopped, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But for now, it's once the script is done, it'll go to casting and voiceover. So you'll have auditions. You will select your cast, and it's usually like a bit of a creative committee selecting your cast. There's going to be creative executives, the directors, showrunners. They're all going to give input on who their favorite choice is for the role, and hopefully that you align more often than not. But at the end of the day, it's like what is the voice that speaks best to the character? And so so after you have your cast, you're going to go into the booth and you're going to record your episode. All the dialogue is going to get recorded. And then from there, they're going to take all of the selected takes. The voice director at the record will actually will select the takes along with the showrunner and the director. They're going to select the takes that they like the best from the reads. And then those are all assembled. Some of the roles in voiceover, at the top, you're going to have a voice director who oversees it and runs the voice record sessions. Obviously, you have your voice talent. So if you're an aspiring actor, if you really love doing different cartoony voices and stuff like that, then maybe your strength is going to be as a voice in voice talent. There's also a record engineer. Who is responsible for, obviously from the technical side, making sure that everything is recorded with no pops, no little, like you want to make sure that the audio is nice and clean, right? So you have your record engineer, and then you also have a record assistant who works with the voice director, making sure that all the right takes are circled, and you're not scratching your head going, wait, which one did we like? We liked that one, right? I would say that much like in writing, a record assistant is also a really great way to get in if you want to know the whole process of voice recording. As a record assistant, you're going to get exposed to everything, all the people, all the actors, and everything. And so it's a great first step if you're thinking of taking that career path to maybe being a voice director. So then from there, you have your audio, you got your script, and you got your audio, and then that's going to move into storyboard and animatic. And so it's here that the storyboard is thumbnailed, and then it's pitched to the showrunner or the director. The storyboard artist will pitch their show, And so you can see here in the little image, sometimes they'll put it up on a wall. You'll see it at places like Pixar and stuff with features, of course. Like they do really big like presentations of their storyboards, and they walk through, and they're super fun to do it this way because the storyboard artist has a chance to really to act, and become those characters in the pitch for their storyboard. And it's always a really fun experience. From there, the completed storyboard, if once it's all done, it will then get assembled and then edited with the recorded dialogue, and that will become an animatic. And an animatic looks a little bit like you can see up in the top right. This is a little snippet from a SpongeBob animatic, and so you can see they take the storyboard panels and then they edit them together, so it's almost like a rough version of the show. You actually get to see like how the camera is going to be set up. You get to see how it cuts. You get to see you get to with the audio in there. You can see like is the gag working? Is everything starting to gel? It's a the animatic is really key. And if you've nailed it, then going into animation is going to be smooth sailing. Right. So the animatic will then go off for network approval when it's done. And because they want to see this is going to be the show that's going to be going on the air. Right. So they'll give their feedback, and then the animatic is ready to go into the next stage. So some story and animatic roles. You have like story leads and assistant directors. You have obviously storyboard artists and a story revision artist. So storyboard revision artist is usually more of a junior title in storyboarding. You come in and uh, there's changes that are going to be made along the way in your animatic, and you got to adjust the storyboard, and you got to do it really quick. And so you'll have a storyboard revision artist that will be able to do that for you, because the storyboard artist has probably moved on at that point to their next episode. So a revision artist, again, is a great entry point into it and learning the process. Okay, so from there, now that being pre-production, now you're moving into production. And now this is where the show is really going to all start to come together. The first stage would be design. And so in design, the storyboard will be broken down. Asset lists will be generated. And so then okay, these are all the elements that we have to make that are going to be on screen. So it's all the characters, props, backgrounds, all those assets that are required to be designed are drawn by the team, and it's all overseen by the art director, making sure that everything is on style, making sure that in terms of scale and color and everything, the art director is going to make sure that all of that's in line, and so the designers will design everything needed. And some of the roles in design, you have obviously your art director or design lead, character prop location artists, and then you have also on the color side, making sure that everything is the color palette, the tone, everything you're going for in the show is in line. You've got color stylists and your BG painters. So that's the design department. And like I said back in the beginning when I was talking about my journey, this is actually where my journey in production started, working in the design department and helping shepherd all the materials that the incredible artists were all doing every day. So getting exposed to that was super fun. For CGI, I wanted to add this slide because I didn't want to jump around. I didn't know, should I just talk about a 2D animation pipeline, but there's also CG animated pipeline, right? So I've done a little bit of a hybrid here in the presentation. The last slide was all about 2D design, but if you have a CGI show, you're going to need to get into modeling, rigging, and surfacing for your assets. So you have, for CGI, you're going to have your 3D models and sets that are all going to be built in the computer in Maya. And then a surfacing artist will take the grayscale models, and you can see down in the bottom left there is like a turntable of Ryder from PAW Patrol. And you can see how he's like all gray. He doesn't have any paint or color. Well, a surfacing artist comes in and they add all the colors and textures and surfacing to the model, which you can see on Ryder there at the bottom right. That's the colored T-pose of Ryder. So the surfacing artist would do all of that. And then the assets at the same time are the models are rigged. And so rigging is like taking the model and you're adding almost like a skeleton within the model that is going to give the animator the ability to move everything like a puppet. And so up in the top right, I found this animation of Moana's facial rig from Pixar. And so you can see that inside the model is a rig that the animators will grab the little targets, the little triggers and everything, and by just moving those little points in the rig, you can create the expressions in her face. And again, this is one of those things in animation that kind of goes unsung, that like a great rig makes the character. And it gives the animators a great rig is going to give your animators the ability to do more with the expressions and the posing and everything. And so it really is crucial in CG animation. Some of the roles like in this department would be like if you want to oversee the entire CG process, you could be a CG supervisor. There's modelers. You're going to have a team of modelers. You're going to have surfacing artists, like I said, and also, like I said, the asset riggers. So then from there, everything is going to get moved into layout and animation. And so the layout artist will assemble each shot for a show based on the storyboard. So they'll look at the storyboard and they're like, okay, we need this asset, this prop, this background, and they'll assemble everything into the shot for the animator. And then the animators will then open up that shot, get everything more aligned to where they need it to be to match the storyboard, and then they will do their posing and in-betweening that brings the shot to life. Right. So there's layout artists, scene setup artists. In those departments, you have an animation supervisor, and then you have animators. And so, at this stage, I also wanted to mention that, like, much like myself, where my career path changed, you know, in my career, I've seen people that have, been animators that then become directors. And then there's like storyboard artists who will become animators, or a designer becomes a storyboard artist. Or all of them aspire to be a director, so they become a director. You Once you're in one department, you have the ability to spread your wings and go in other ways. If you put in the extra time and work, you'll see like designers will go home and they'll start maybe storyboarding. And I've seen people who started in design and up here, and then they end up being like world famous storyboard artists, down in Los Angeles, working on like Spider-Verse. So it's the journey that you take. It's not just set in stone that you're on one ladder. You have the ability to go and do whatever you feel is going to be is speaking to you and what you want to do in your career. So then, going back to the pipeline, the shot would be complete, and then it goes into effects and compositing. And in effects and compositing, effects are like smoke, water, sparkles, lightning, anything like that. Those will be designed and animated right in the shot by the effects artist. And then everything gets composited, right? So the compositor will then take all the layers and make sure that everything is working. Sometimes, like in for instance, if you look at this clip from Unicorn Academy, you can see that sometimes the background is a little bit blurred, so that Layla stands out in the foreground, and those effects really stand out. That's in compositing. You can take that background layer and you can just add just a slight little blur that's going to make your character pop, right? So again, just these little things that are done in that department that maybe a lot of people don't know about. The technical director will oversee the rendering. So when a shot is fully complete and it's ready to get kicked out to be rendered, they will oversee it. And There's usually a lot of errors. You'll see shots come back where a texture didn't work, or this intersect. There'll be an intersection of a character's arm, character walking through, through a shot. Their feet are going right through the floor. There's just little errors that you don't see when you're working through the shots until you get to that final render and it comes out, and then it's like clear as day. So the technical director pulls their hair out a lot, going back and having to fix a lot of things to make sure that the shot is just perfect and ready to go. So again, like some of the roles that would be in these departments, you have a technical director leading the department, you have an effects artist. For CG shows, you'd also have a lighting artist. So lighting is so important in CG, and they'll go into not every shot, but they make sure that in the sets, the lights are really gonna make your characters shine on screen. So that's what the lighting artists are for. And then, like I said, you have compositors as well. So then once your show is complete, it's going to go into post-production. And the first stage in post-production is music and sound effects. So you're going to have a composer that's going to come on early days. The composers will usually sometimes can come on in development. Sometimes they come on around animatic so that they have something to score to visually. But they usually come in early because you really want to make sure that your score is the sound that you were looking for your show. Um, so the musical composer will create the musical score for the final picture, and at the same time, the sound effects editor will provide all the required Foley. So anything like ball bouncing or footsteps or anything that they need to help really make the world feel full of sound. um, they'll go through their library of Foley, and they'll make sure that they pull out all the right stuff and add it. And then the final mix editor will assemble everything, the music and the sound effects, and using their board with a million switches and knobs and sliders and stuff like that, they will adjust all of the levels of all of the sounds to make sure that everything is just right. And so someone like me, when I was a creative executive on, say, Paw Patrol, every week we would have a final mix session where we got to go to the studio, and it's like a studio similar to what you see in the image in the top right, and you get to sit together, the director, creative executive, showrunner. We sit together with the mix editor, and we watch the show, and we listen for things. At that stage, you're just really laser focused on sound. And so if something sounds like, ooh, like that those footsteps were a little too loud, right? The mix editor will then go back, bring the level down, and then play it again for everybody and be like, okay, how's that sound, right? So there's a lot of little tweaking that will go on at the final mix, but it's always a blast at the final mix, because now you're seeing like the almost like 100%, we're now 99% finished show that's going to go to TB. So then from there, you have the final picture edit. So sometimes even in the mix, when you're watching the rendered picture, you might spot something here or there that looks like, "Ooh, that didn't work," or what was that little frame, wherever, sometimes like something will go black or something for a frame. It'll just disappear or something, and your eye will catch it when you've watched the show for like the 100th time. You'll catch it, and so you'll go back and do little picture tweaks like that in post. And then after that, the episode is output digitally and uploaded to either the network or the streamer or wherever it's going to be on TV. And so the role obviously is a picture editor. Um, I didn't mention it earlier, but the animatics, sometimes you'll have an editor come on early, and they will actually edit your animatics. But right now in the animation world, it's becoming more common that the storyboard artists themselves are actually able to, in their software, whether they're using Storyboard Pro or whatever, they can actually produce their own animatics, and the animatics are kicked out. But editors sometimes will come on early and do animatics, but then they're working on picture as well in the end. So that is my pipeline kind of overview. Again, it's very, very general. I hope that, that you guys, in hearing some of these roles, in the production pipeline, I'm hoping that maybe there's some roles here that you didn't know existed that maybe speak to you and maybe you want to look into a little bit more. Like I said, there's a lot of people in the business. It takes a lot of people to put these shows together, and get them to air. And everybody has a different strength, and all it takes all those strengths together to make something great. Um, and me personally, as a creative executive overseeing creative on this entire pipeline, the one thing that I always say to everybody on my teams is I'm always looking for creative input. Whether you're a design coordinator or you're an assistant or it doesn't matter where you are in the pipeline, everybody working on the show, I love hearing what everybody is thinking. I want to know, like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this joke? Did this joke land for you? What did you think of this? And if you have creative ideas, I'm always looking for people to give creative input and not keep quiet, because there could be an absolutely fantastic idea that is in there that we're never going to know because someone was quiet. So, we all work in this business, like I said, because we love stories, we love animation, we love telling stories. So we're all creative in our own ways, and I'm a big believer in collaboration, and that goes for, like, I love hearing from everybody on the project that I'm working on. So never be afraid to speak up and give your creative ideas. So finally, as like a final takeaway, I was asked, before putting together this presentation, a question, which was, what is your top recommendation for high school students to be best prepared for jobs in the animation industry? And I don't actually have one top recommendation. I actually had a few, and so I'm going to give my top three. The first thing I would say, and it's so crucial, not just in this business, but like in any industry, but even more so, I guess, in animation, is network, network, network. Um, Go meet as many people as you can. If you're looking to get into animation, go to the festivals, go to the conferences, go and meet people, um, because it's that networking that is really going to help you in your career. Because if you stay in one place and you only know this group of people, you don't really have a good sense of what's happening in the industry. So the more people you know, the more information you're going to have in terms of finding work. If a certain studio isn't, all of a sudden they're not, you're an animator and they're not animating right now, well, through your network, you're going to know, like, oh, this studio is looking, or that studio is looking, and it's going to really help you to keep going in this animation business. The next thing is, don't rush your journey. One thing that I did, and I learned from this, like, that you have to let your journey take its course. And I know a lot of people, when they get excited and they want to get into the animation industry, and it's like, I want to be a director. Oh, I want to direct my own show, and I want to do this and that. And it's like, it takes time, and your journey is you're going to get there. You're going to get to where you want to be, and it's important that every step along the way you just be a sponge and learn at each step. um like I said, like, I knew that I wanted to be a producer when I was on the production side, and so going through the being a design coordinator, and then being a production coordinator, then being a PM, it's like with each step and working on all those different projects, I learned so much. And that really benefited me when I became a producer. And then when I knew I wanted to be on the creative side, being a producer and being a sponge, learning from the creative side, what it takes to write a great script, what makes a great design, what makes a great story, a great animated story. Learning all of that as being a producer helped me to become the creative executive that I am today. So don't rush the journey. Take the time, take your time, and learn along the way, and you're going to get there. You're going to get to wherever you want to be. And then the final thing, this kind of goes back to what I was saying before. Um, Never stop being creative. No matter what you're doing, no matter what you're doing, no matter what the role, don't stop being creative. Um, when I was working in design and I was working in as a production coordinator as well, I would go home and write. I would go home because I had a script idea, or I had a story idea, or I had a pitch idea, and I would go home, and my night job was going and typing away and getting those pitches together, right? So never just if you have that creative mind, and like I said, we're all working in an industry where we're all creative. No matter what your role is, no matter what you're doing, never stop being creative, and your journey will get you to where you want to be. So, anyways, that is my presentation, and thank you everybody for letting me blah 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 for 45 minutes. And I hope this was entertaining and educational for everybody.
Thank you so much, David. That was such a great introduction to the animation pipeline and all of the different roles that exist in between. Super thorough and a really great setup to the rest of our series this school year, where we will dive into some of those specific roles as well, through like the business of entertainment, line producing in particular, storyboarding, animation rigging, all of that fun stuff. So thank you for giving that overview. I know we have about 10 minutes, so we can dive right into some of the questions that we've got asked here by our group. And just a reminder, folks, feel free to put in your questions into the Q&A function. I know that the chat, it gets a little bit hard to get your questions asked in there without getting them lost. But the first question we have is from Mackenzie here, who asks, do you have any tips on finding entry-level positions in animation production in particular, David?
Yes. I would say, you know, entry level production roles are very sought after. They're everyone is constantly looking for entry level production people. So I would just do some research on studios that you know of, that and just take a look at their career sites for sure. And then, like I said, also if you can get to any festivals or any animation conferences or anything like that, they will usually have like career days where people that are looking for entry level positions can go and actually talk directly to production people, and you can give them your resume and let them know that you want to get in there.
Great piece of advice. I know BRIC will be heading, and David with you as well, to Ottawa Animation Festival if any folks are nearby there this month. I know Lightbox Expo is another big animation specific event for aspiring and professional artists happening in LA at the end of October. So thank you for that advice. We also have a couple of questions that are similar. We have Joshua Seo, who's asking, any way to network in Maryland? I'm stuck and lack some funds for animation industry, along with getting a bachelor's degree in science, along with learning, but I'm still searching and feeling lost. Any tips? And I think this kind of can build into Maureen's question here too, who asks, what's your advice on networking and reaching out to folks on LinkedIn maybe as another avenue for networking?
Well, first off, so the best those two kind of go hand in hand, actually. I mean, the world is everybody's online. It's all digital now. And so you can, if you're in Maryland and there's no studios that are local, you can reach out to recruiters, or even like through studios websites, you can reach out and you can find out about roles that they're looking to hire. Um, and yes, and in terms of networking, I mean, yeah, you can absolutely reach out to certain people on LinkedIn. I will be totally honest. I don't you might not get a response right away. You might not get a response at all. Everybody's very busy and stuff like that, but it never hurts to just throw it out there to somebody and send a DM to let them know that you're interested. And I can say from personal experience that there are people that will reply and do reply. So don't ever be discouraged about that. I would continue to chip away and try your best to network as best you can.
David, do you have any tips on best ways to connect with potential mentors or recruiters in a professional way online?
In a professional way online, yes, absolutely. So I would say like if you reach out online to somebody who, let's just say they're a storyboard artist and you're looking to get into storyboards, I think if you reach out to them and you're enthusiastic, even if you have like a little clip of something, a storyboard that you've been putting together or something like that that you can include in the message, people are always willing to help out, especially right now in the animation industry. I've never seen it like this before. It's been in 20 years where everybody right now is looking to help everybody. And so it's a great time actually to be reaching out to people and letting them know your interests and showing your portfolios. That's another thing. If it's artistic, if you're artistic and you're looking for feedback or whatever, get an online portfolio together. So start a website, or even if you have like something like on ArtStation or something like that, get your stuff in some kind of form that you can then send a link to somebody and say, hey, like I'm curious for your feedback. I'm an aspiring designer or aspiring storyboard artist, and I'd love your feedback. And yeah, hopefully people will reach out to you.
Fantastic. All right. We have Dee Dee here who has asked, as a recent college graduate, do you feel like Canada has more funded apprenticeship or scholarship opportunities for emerging artists? David, is that something that you might have any insight on?
Um, I I do not. It's been a while for me. Um, but my son is actually going to university now, and so I might be able to figure that out. But no, I'm not quite sure. I know like up here in Canada, there are some pretty like Sheridan College. There in Ottawa, there's also animation programs, and a lot of the people that are coming like right out of those programs are getting work. They come right out of the program, like especially if you're in Ottawa. Ottawa has got a lot of animation studios, and students are coming right out of school and going right into work, especially if you've got a really great portfolio. So, so yeah, I'm not sure on scholarships and everything, and if Canada is better or not, but I do know that people that are taking the courses up here are finding work, and they even have like at the schools they have career days where the studios actually go to the college, and they'll give all the students a chance to get to talk and network and show their portfolios and show what they can do.
That's great. All right. We have an anonymous attendee who asked, because you spoke about, always trying to find your creative voice, do you have any tips on trying to find your creative voice? What was that discovery like for you?
Yeah, so I can tell you this, listen to your voice. Your voice is your creative voice. Something I learned a long time ago was to write what you know. So if you're a writer, write something that you're really passionate about. Write something that you really know a lot about, because the your all of that knowledge and heart, everything, it's going to show in that creative. So your creative voice, um, it's going to shine through if you're writing what you know. It's in the animation industry though, you're going to end up like, for me as a creative executive, I'll end up I remember before I did Academy, for example, I had never done a show that was geared at girls 6 to 12. And so I was like, is this the right show for me? Is this the right show for me? But then I learned that it actually was. And so it's interesting that you'll find something that maybe you didn't think was your creative voice. It actually is when you get into it. And before I even when I started Paw Patrol, I had not done a lot of preschool besides painting Franklin in digital ink and paint. And so again, I wasn't really sure. But I found doing Paw Patrol, I found this absolute love for preschool. And at the time, I have two sons, and they were both in of the age to watch Paw Patrol. So I was bringing episodes home, and they were my focus group at home. Every week, I would show them an episode, and they would tell me if they loved it or not. So I learned that that preschool is, my creative voice does lend itself to preschool. So yeah, go with your heart, and like I said, and write what you know, and create what you know, and it will shine through.
That's great. And what a stretch too to hear from your journey to go from teen shows like 16, for example, to Paw Patrol to Unicorn Academy. It's
Yeah,
a really
it's and
great
I mean that's
broad
just like
genre.
that is just like the tip. Like I said, I've done everything across all age demos now. I produced some shows that were geared more, they were like Adult Swim shows on Cartoon Network. I've done that stuff. So I have experience across like all demographics. But it's funny now, when I think about it, it's like it's preschool and teen comedy where I found that's my strength. Those two areas I'm right at home creatively. But it took me being on productions like those other ones to realize that that's not really for me, right? So you learn along the way through your journey.
Amazing. Well, I know we're right up at time at an hour. David, if you have some extra time to spare, I know we have just a few more questions in Q&A if you're open to staying on a little bit longer. For
Absolutely.
folks who have to go, thank you so much for joining us. This recording will also be up on BRIC's website, just as a reminder, on our AVG Pre-Apprenticeship Speaker Series website, but also on BRIC's YouTube channel as well. So if you want to rewatch any of David's advice or take another look at his slides, you have an opportunity to do so. All right. So next question that we have here comes from Mustafa. I'm currently working on upgrading my pitch. I'm a visual dev artist and want to make sure my story leaves a long-lasting impression that stands out. David, do you have any advice that you could give on Mustafa improving their pitch?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna just kind of echo what I said, like on the pitch and development section, where it's like I would just make sure that your pitch is very as concise as possible, as succinct as possible. You want to be able to go in and explain what your show is in one line, right? The second that it starts to get overly complicated and there's lots of layers to it and it takes a lot, you're going to lose whoever you're pitching to. So I would say the first thing to do is take your pitch and ask yourself, have I have I condensed this to as clear and succinct a way as possible? And then go from there. And like I said, I don't know what exactly the pitch is that you're going for, but also ask yourself, do you think that this would be a show that would be better pitched as a script? Do you like, is there a lot of like character dynamics in the show that you'd want to be outlining that in a script? Or is it a more designy show like an Adventure Time where there was a style to it that you were really going for? You ask yourself what would be the best way to suit this pitch, and then design your pitch towards that.
Great advice. We have a question from Domi who asks, "Hi, David. Thanks for such an amazing presentation. I'm
You're
working towards
welcome.
building a career in writing for animation and wondering if you had any tips for a writer's portfolio or roles that I could look at that can build my resume to feel like I qualify to apply to be a writer's assistant."
Yeah, so if again, like if you found your voice, your creative voice, and you know what type of show you would like to write for, find a show that you love and write a spec script. write something, just write a script for that show, write those characters. I read spec scripts all the time, especially when I was putting together the writing team for Unicorn Academy. Um, I had like hundreds of scripts come across my desk that I had to read, and a lot of them were like spec scripts for that demo. And just reading those to see like do these writers have the voice that I'm looking for, right? So if you have a favorite show that you were like, I'd love to write on a show like this one day, write a spec script, or write multiple spec scripts if you just want to get into the industry. Write a preschool spec script. Go write a Bluey, right? Or if you want to write a teen comedy, go write any teen comedy. Go write a Teen Titans Go or something like that. Like go and write something, a spec script, and then also, when you have that, when you get going and you have a lot of material, then you can start looking into to maybe even agents or something like that that will be able to help you get your foot in the door in a writing room, or with a story editor that will be, keeping you in mind for a project if when they get onto it, right? So that would be my advice there.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. We have another question here from Soon, who says, is LA or Atlanta, Georgia, the best place to start in the industry? How do I meet big influencers and network with them?
Well, I'm not sure Atlanta. I'm not sure how big Atlanta is in the industry. But LA, I mean, you can't get bigger than LA. You can't get much bigger than LA. So definitely LA. Um, but um, but yeah, and in terms of networking, again, like I said, there are animation festivals, conferences. There's always stuff like that going on. So just do your research. Do your research, get your passes, and go. They're usually like over a weekend or 4 days. Um, and there's usually a really big turnout of everyone from networks to studios to artists to everybody in the industry usually getting together to watch panels and stuff like that. It's just a great way to network. So yeah, get out to the festivals.
Love that. We also, as part of BRIC, are doing a portfolio uh, prep session in advance of Lightbox Expo, actually next month. So for folks who are attending or planning to attend Lightbox Expo or any similar type of event, it'd be great to attend that session as well and have some tips. We'll be going over mock interviews, some networking, do's and don'ts, and just general tips to put your best foot forward at those kinds of conventions and events. So be sure to follow BRIC on our social media channels as well to look out for that. Subscribe to BRIC's newsletter. Um, and I think that takes us to the end of our Q&A. So David, thank you so much again for doing such a thorough presentation. Um, I loved hearing about all the different roles, and I definitely am walking away learning about a few roles that I hadn't before.
Well, I can tell you, and no problem. I was very happy to do it. I love doing stuff like this, and I can also say this, to everyone is that, in my presentation, because I only had 45 minutes, it's really, I don't want to say it's the tip of the iceberg, but there's a lot more to this. There's even more roles than what you're seeing. And I mean, you can see that just when you watch the credits on any show. You can see how many people are involved in an animated show. And so there's even more roles than what I've presented here today, but you'll learn about those like as you do your research and again, like find your journey, go on your journey.
Well, amazing. Thank you so much, David. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll see everyone hopefully at the next event on
No
the
problem.
24th.
Thanks, everybody. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks everyone so much. Bye.
Bye.